It's 1:30. I'd like to call the meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission, May 19, 2014, to order. Roll call. Commissioner Witcher.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Littlefield.
Present.
Commissioner White. Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline. Commissioner Jenkins.
Present.
Commissioner George.
Here.
Commissioner Yonkel. Before we move on to the approval of the meeting minutes, I'd like to just have us take a moment to think about the yellow cab driver that got murdered last month, late at night. He was out on the streets and he got shot and he got murdered. Just like to make a thought of how much we, as the Traffic and Transportation Commission, appreciate all the vehicle for hire people out there, whether it be taxis, limos, pedicabs, horses, internet-based vehicles, wrecker services, etc. They're out there in a challenging situation, and when things like this happen, I think it's only appropriate that we recognize the effort that goes on out there. So if we could just have a moment of silence, please, for the yellow cab driver that passed. Thank you very much. Okay, can I have a motion concerning the approval of the minutes of April 21, 2014 of the Traffic and Transportation Commission?
I move it approved as submitted.
We have a motion from Commissioner Witcher. Do we have a second? And we have a second from Commissioner Jenkins. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of April 21st, 2014 from Commissioner Wisher, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. The report on licensed taxi and record services will be presented in July. Item 4, the consent docket. Do we have anybody here to speak against an item on the consent docket? Okay. Do we have a motion concerning the consent docket?
Move approval of the consent docket.
We have a motion from Commissioner Witcher.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hale. Do we have any discussion on the consent docket? We have a motion to approve the consent docket by Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Hale. May I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Item 5A, Rogers Worldwide Transportation, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73162. To consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Rogers Worldwide Transportation to operate 100 vehicles in limousine service. Anybody here to speak on this item? Okay, can I have staff input, please?
All right, you've got all our comments before you. We recommend approval of the application as presented.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion concerning item 5A.
I'll move to be approved.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Schuline.
Second.
Second by Commissioner George. Any discussion on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5A from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner George. Votes, please. Okay, item is approved. Item 5B, Star Cab LLC, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73109, to consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Star Cab LLC to operate 150 vehicles in taxi service. Do you have anybody here to speak on item 5B? Okay. Sir, if you'd like to come up. A few things. First of all, I need your name and your address, and when you're done speaking, make sure to fill out one of those forms for us, please, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Okay. My name is Bob Tahiri. I came here 30 years ago to Oklahoma City. Nobody knows about the taxi, as far as I know, when I was a student. Now Oklahoma is growing and improving and getting bigger. Then we decided with my partner, Mr. Mehdi, to have a company, Star Cab taxi for 150 units, and start operating in Oklahoma, give the service to the people, airport, hotels, and people, so give the service to the city.
All right, very good. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Make sure to fill out one of those forms, please. We have staff input, please.
All right, you've got all our comments before you. We're recommending approval of the application as presented.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
Move approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner George to approve item 5B. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Jenkins. Any discussion on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. May I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Wish you luck, sir. Item 5C, David Copeland, owner, Copeland Trucking Company, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73173, to consider a request for the addition of north and southbound stop signs on South Meridian Avenue at Southwest 134th Street to establish all-way stop control. We have anybody here to speak on item 5C? Sir, if I can have your name, your address. You have up to 5 minutes, and when you're done, please fill out one of the forms.
My name is David Copeland. Address is 14440 South Meridian. I'm the owner of Copeland Trucking Company. And I'm just here on behalf of the business owners on South Meridian, which is primarily industrial, mixer trucks, dump trucks, oil field, so on and so forth, mostly loads that are 75-foot long, 10-foot wide and wider. And there's just a lot of traffic that's in that area. There's a lot of FAA traffic. Also, it's an alternate route for accidents on I-44. Along it is a snow route as well. So we're just asking to consider having a four-way stop put in there. So.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Please fill out your form. Staff input, please.
You've got our complete report before you. One thing I want to point out on page 3 of the report is that the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices notes that multi-way stop control, all-way in this particular case, is a useful means of controlling traffic when the traffic volumes on the intersecting roads are about equal. We've got, in this particular case, Meridian Avenue is carrying about 47% of the traffic volume, and the other 53 is being carried on 134th Street. Addition of stop control on Meridian, given the balanced traffic at the intersection, would be consistent with guidance provided in the MUTCD. And so it's for this reason that staff can support the request as presented. So actions at the discretion of the Commission.
Thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5C?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hale. Do we have a second?
Second. Second.
We have a second from Commissioner George. Any discussion on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5C from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner George. May I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Item 5D, Kirsten Principal, Bryant Elementary School, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73160, to consider a request for, 1, a signed westbound left turn restriction effective from 0845 a.m. to 0910 a.m., 9:15 a.m., and 3:30 p.m. to 4:05 p.m. school days on the southernmost driveway serving Bryant Elementary School at South Bryant Avenue. 2, a signed southbound left turn restriction effective from 8:45 a.m. to 9:15 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. to 4:05 p.m. school days on South Bryant Avenue at the southernmost driveway serving Bryant Elementary School. Or 3, signal regulated left turn restrictions at the same locations operated in conjunction with the existing school zone flashers on South Bryant Avenue serving Bryant Elementary School. Do we have anybody here to speak on item 5D? Okay, we have staff input, please.
Okay. Well, probably the best, when we went out there to take a look at this particular request, it became fairly clear that the interference between the left-turning vehicles trying to get into the school on Bryant and also exiting from the school's driveway onto Bryant, it affected vehicle traffic circulation in and around the school. The principals requested consideration of a signed restriction, but in these particular cases, we find that as school schedules change over the course of the year, sometimes the times that they need this restriction to be in effect also changes, which is kind of problematic for us because you can't very well go out there and make an easy switch to a sign without replacing it. So it's for this reason that we're recommending that you can approval of this item, but subject to the use of a signal regulated control. So what this would be is we would have a left turn restriction sign, and it would just indicate when flashing, and then we would operate the flashers on this particular restriction the same hours when the school zone flashers were in operation. So in that manner, a person doesn't need to know what time it is to know when the restriction's in effect, because it'll be in effect the exact same times and on the exact same days when the school zone flashers are in operation. So action on this matter is at the discretion of the Commission, but we would recommend if you consider the item to use option 3 as presented by staff.
Okay, we have a motion concerning item 5D.
I move approval of option 3 as recommended by staff.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve item 5D sub 3 from Commissioner Witcher. We have a second. We have a second from Commissioner Jenkins. Any discussion on this item?
I just have a quick question for staff. On a timed signal like that, is that something that can be remotely changed, or do they have to go out to the sign to change times if they...
The system that we use now uses a pager to operate them, and that's how we turn them on and off. And this way, and it's tied to a database that's maintained at our traffic operations office. And what will happen is that they're pager programmed, so the school zone lights clocks are synchronized using that same paging method, as will this, and so it'll all come on at the exact same time. So the return restriction will be effective for the duration of the school zone.
Sir?
Are the funds available to implement something like this right away, or would this be something that would have to wait till funds were available to do it?
There's probably enough materials currently in inventory to be able to install this. And actually, in actuality, we'd probably only need a single flasher assembly. And it would be because at the location where it would be installed, you could put a sign on it facing southbound traffic and westbound traffic. And so it just take a pair of lights, the flasher controller, and then the pole to support both signs.
So it's not like approving a...
It's not. Yeah, it's not a significant expense.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
Just for clarification, 3 replaces electronically 1 and 2.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, any other talk on item 5D? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins, to approve item 5D sub 3. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, the item is approved. Item 5E, Cindy Meganell, Antioch Christian Academy, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73170, to consider a request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of South Portland Avenue and Southwest 119th Street. Have anybody here to speak on this item? Ma'am? If I could have your name, your address, you have up to 5 minutes. Please fill out one of the forms when you're done.
Good afternoon. My name is Patricia Podolik. I live at 12900 Condor Drive in Oklahoma City. I live in Eagle Ridge Edition, which is off of Portland, along with Rockport. Those are the only 2 additions that go on to Portland. I am very much in favor of this, and I hope that you approve the whole thing. We have a new elementary school going in. I did confirm with the Moore School District that the school district will include these 2 additions and then go west across I-44, which is going to require that all of the school buses either use 134th or 119th. 134th does currently have a traffic signal. Most people, I would say most people, I'm assuming they will think like me, in the mornings and afternoons would be inundating the 134th because it is next to impossible to get onto 119th in rush hour time. The statistics I read in here said, since this was last considered, there's been numerous accidents, including a fatality, and it is too bad that this has not been acted on sooner because it's caused a fatality. This does not include all of the near misses, and I see them every time I go through there. People wait and wait and wait, and then just plunge through, coming from the Early Wine Park area, golf course, coming from the west going east. The three-way stop sign that's at the corners of I-44 and 119th do not really help. It just keeps the traffic coming and, at a pace that does not allow people to get through. I hope, I point out that the lot on the corner of 119th and Portland, the southwest corner, is zoned commercial. So once it's sold, it's for sale now, this is going to increase the traffic there. It's a really a bad spot. The road itself is a horrible road, 2-lane, just blacktop over gravel. I really hope that you will approve this and approve the one that includes the turn lanes. I know there were 2 options presented to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else to speak on item 5E? Ma'am, if I could have your name, your address. You have up to 5 minutes, and please fill out a form when you're done.
My name is Chelsea Bird. I live at 7817 Southwest 109th, Oklahoma City. I work at Antioch Christian Church, which is directly on the corner of 119th and Portland. I'm the ministry assistant. We have a lot of people that come in our offices after accidents there. We hear a lot of accidents. Our offices are right off of that, are right on the corner of that building, so we can hear all the accidents. Not to mention we have a preschool directly off of Portland, and we also have an academy that's directly off of Portland. So there's a lot of kids out there, a lot of traffic all at one time. So we're fully behind this, and there's a whole lot of people that are behind this. So we hope that you guys approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else to speak on item 5E? Okay. So if I have your name, your address, you have up to 5 minutes, and please fill out a form when you're done.
Thank you. My name is Darrell Slate, 12620 Jasper Avenue. I live in Rockport, mentioned earlier. I also encourage the commission to approve this. Not only this specific issue, I'm having trouble, with the actual maintenance at Portland. I get the runaround saying that there's no funding until 2017. The Portland Avenue will not last till 2017. The city's going to have to do something between now and then. It's very unsafe. And I've written about 50 emails, so Stuart Chai's had a few of them, but we're not going to. Something has to get done. Not just this light that we're proposing, but also the exit at 119th southbound on I-44. Because of these implemented 4-way stops at the interstate junction, has created a backup nightmare. Every day at 5 o'clock, it backs up to I-44 and stops I-44 southbound traffic. It has actually compounded the problem by implementing the 4-way stops. Something has to get done before someone is unfortunately killed at that juncture. But these traffic lights will help our residents, our schools, and all these studies that have been accomplished don't even consider the new school opening in August. In addition, there's got to be a school zone put in on Portland at some point, hopefully before school starts in August, and I haven't heard anything publicly about that school zone. It's outside of this, so thank you.
All right, thank you much for your input. Sir, your form. Okay, anybody else to speak on item 5E? Okay, can we have staff input, please?
All right. Well, we'd first reviewed this item back in 2013. At that time, the signal didn't meet any warrants for consideration. One thing I want to point out is that we conducted traffic counts again towards the latter part of April of this year. We found that Condition B of Warrant 1, which is the 8-hour warrant, Warrant 2, which is a 4-hour warrant, and Warrant 3, which is a peak hour warrant, under the reduced traffic volumes that we are allowed to work with under certain scenarios. This particular intersection will satisfy those warrants, and for the first time since 1998, and only in 2013, the collision warrant, warrant number 7, was satisfied at this particular intersection. There are 9 total warrants in the manual and uniform traffic control devices, so at this point in time, this particular intersection has satisfied 4 of them. Based on the most recent collision history and this particular intersection satisfying those signalization consideration warrants, we would have cause to recommend consideration of an intersection here. But if the commission acts to recommend or approve a traffic signal at this location, staff would recommend that recommendation come with a call for making intersection improvements, which would basically be widening the intersection on 119th Street for turn lanes. Because typically an intersection on an arterial road that, with as much traffic as on 119th Street, if it does not have turn lanes, as soon as the signal goes in, there come calls for either why isn't there or is there any way to provide for left turns at a location such as this. So, if you've got any other questions on this item, I'd be happy to answer them. Action will be at the discretion of the commission.
All right. Thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5E?
I can move approval of the application, including the widening of the street.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner George to approve, and seconded by Commissioner Schuline, to approve item 5E with the recommendations of the staff. Any discussion on this item?
Got a question. It's mentioned that there is a problem with the four-way stop coming off of I-44, traffic backing up. Has there been any consideration of how this lighted intersection would impact that current situation that's going on?
They're related to a degree, but again, not quite to the same degree. When the commission last looked at at 119th Street where it crossed over I-44, the only thing that was done was in recognition of sight distance problems that were created by that severe vertical curvature in the bridge, stop controls were added on 119th Street where the ramp terminals were already stop controlled. So in that regard, having the stop signs on the off-ramps coming off from the highway has no influence on backups. Or the action that approved adding stop sign on 119th Street had no influence on any backups that might be related on the interstate. The one thing that it would do is by having always stop control at either end of the bridge, it would allow traffic to orderly move through the intersection on all the approaches, which means with 119th Street no longer having the right-of-way, those vehicles would stop, and that would create one-at-a-time movement opportunities for people coming off the interstate. So in that regard, it should have made some improvement as opposed to made anything worse. The other thing is, there's not really a good means of modeling this unless we were to build like a larger scale traffic model. And at that point in time, you could look at what it would take to coordinate traffic signals. Because if you were to put signals at both ends of the ramps tying into 119th Street, you'd have ramps at both ends of the bridges, or you have signals at both ends of the bridge, and then another 900 feet away, you'd have the signal at 119th Street. And for obvious reasons, you'd need to coordinate that. It would probably be a time of day pattern when you'd recognize it, like there's more westbound traffic coming off the interstate destined for eastbound 119th Street. So it would be somewhat more challenging to try and coordinate something like that, but it also would probably have to run it through the state because the state controls off-ramps all the way to the point where they terminate into city streets. Now, granted, 119th Street terminates a little bit into some of the side streets, but would probably still involve the state as far as looking at it, a traffic control change. But what you've got here before you today is just looking at Portland and 119th Street. And like I said, at this point in time, this intersection will meet 4 of the 9 traffic signal warrants, and the collision warrant was only met for the first time in the history of this, since we've got records on this intersection since 1998. It'll be the first time in 2013. And there was one notation mentioned about a fatality collision. That collision occurred before this item came to the Traffic Commission previously. So at that time, the city hadn't even had the opportunity to look at considering a traffic signal at the location. The fatality occurred in advance of that.
Okay. Any other discussion on item 5E? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5E from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Schuline, with the additional modification from staff with their recommendation. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Item 5F, Cindy McGonigal, Antioch Christian Academy, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73170, to consider a request for the establishment of school zones on 1. South Portland Avenue from 200 feet north of the north curb line of Southwest 119th Street to 600 feet south of the south curb line of Southwest 119th Street, and on item 2, Southwest 119th Street from 300 feet west of the west curb line of South Portland Avenue to 650 feet east of the east curb line of South Portland Avenue. Anybody here to speak on item 5F? Yes, ma'am. Name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes, please.
My name is Chelsea Bird. I live at 7817 Southwest 109th, Oklahoma City. Again, I work at the church. We see how many people go from 119th and Portland past our school building. It's pretty fast through there, and occasionally we'll have parents that have to park on the other side of the street to get across the street to come to our preschool or our academy. And it's 25 miles an hour would be a little better than 40, so that's kind of what we're looking at now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Okay, anybody else to speak on item 5F? Yes, sir. Name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Again, Daryl Slade, 12620 Jasper Avenue. I also encourage the recommendation to approve of such signals. One thing I didn't mention earlier is on South Portland, this 1 mile section, there is no posted speed limit. It is an assumed 25 mile or 30 mile from the city, but there are no posted speed limits for drivers to slow down. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Anybody else to speak on item 5F? Sir, can we have staff input, please?
All right, you got our comments before you. In conducting or preparing this particular report, we went out and did a turning movement count at the intersection of 119th and Portland. We also did a school-age pedestrian study on the same day, which was earlier this month. At that time, there was no observed pedestrian activity of any form in the vicinity of the intersection, especially destined to the school. The appropriate use of school zone on an arterial or collector street is to reduce traffic speeds in areas where school-age pedestrians, which are the most inexperienced and vulnerable group of all roadway users, are likely to cross the street on their way to and from school. The practice of reducing school speeds, practice of reducing traffic speeds at such crossing locations is especially important when a crossing guard is present. The ability for a school crossing guard to interrupt the movement of a traffic stream traveling at 25 miles per hour is inherently safer for all parties concerned than interrupting the flow of traffic traveling at higher speeds. In the absence of school-age pedestrians and or adult caregivers that cross either Portland Avenue or Southwest 119th Street destined for the school, staff doesn't have justification to recommend approval of the requested school zones. Staff did observe that all students arrive at and depart from this school by way of private vehicles.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5F?
Move to disapprove the school zone.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to disapprove item 5F. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to second by Commissioner White. We have a motion seconded by Commissioner White. Okay, any talk on item 5F? Ma'am?
A question for, is it Ms. Bird? I just want to hear your observations again without it being observed that there's any foot traffic. Just reinforce what you're seeing since you are there daily. I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Sure. Generally, it would be more for the preschool than I see for the academy, foot traffic across the street, because our preschool there has a circle drive, and we ask our parents to not park in the circle drive, so it causes parking to go out on the outer sides of the parking area, and occasionally that's pretty full at some time, so they will park across from, on the west side of Portland, and walk across Portland. Yeah, west side. It's not too often, but it does happen. So it's more so for the preschool than so the academy that I see parking on the other side of Portland.
Okay, any other discussion on item 5F? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner White, to disapprove item 5F. Can I have your votes, please? All right, item is disapproved. Item 5G, Timothy W. Johnson, P.E., Johnson Associates, Inc., Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73104, to consider a request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of North Stiles Avenue at Northeast 10th Street. Sir, if I can have your name, address, and make sure to fill out one of the forms. And you have up to 5 minutes.
Good afternoon. Tim Johnson with Johnson Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue, Oklahoma City. I'm actually here on behalf of the Oklahoma City Urban Renewal Authority. They're the applicant in this case. As many of you are aware, the GE Research and Technology Facility has broke ground last week, under construction, and as part of that, the GE facility will be, their main entrance will be off of Stiles. Here's their facility, 10th Street, 235. The 235 ramp is going to be rebuilt sometime next year by ODOT. And so their main drive will be a gated drive off of Stiles where 9th Street used to be, right here. 9th Street's been vacated. All the alleys and streets in this section have been vacated. The first building, their main building here, after it opens, is going to occupy approximately 140, 145 employees initially. The campus is designed to go up to 500 employees with a parking structure here. Although they'll have a driveway on 10th Street, that's for service and delivery trucks. All employees and all people visiting this site will come through the guarded entry. So as part of the work that's been done with GE, with Oklahoma City Urban Renewal, there's a street project that's being reviewed by city staff now to put a median streetscape, sidewalks, both sides, new lighting to make that an attractive entrance to their facility. And as part of that, we're asking for a signal to be placed at Stiles, which also lines up with the driveway that goes to Oklahoma School of Mathematics. So that's the site. As your staff report indicates, as a summary from our study that we did, the project does not warrant under the standard guidelines of warrants, but because of the increased traffic for left-hand turns onto 10th to gain access to the highway, we would be operating at a level service E. The installation of the signal improves the whole intersection activity to a level service B in all directions. And so it's, although it doesn't warrant, it's not a hindrance, and it'll be completely funded through the streetscape project.
All right, thank you very much. We have staff input, please.
Okay, you've got all our comments before you. Should the Traffic and Transportation Commission approve the request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection, we're recommending the approval be subject to the inclusion of widening on 10th Street for dedicated left turn lanes, with construction costs being borne by others. According to the request letter prepared by Johnson & Associates, construction costs for the traffic signal and roadway improvements are already included as part of a streetscape improvement project contemplated for Stiles Avenue. So action on this matter is going to be at the discretion of the Commission.
Okay. We have a motion concerning item 5G.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the request subject to the widening of Northeast 10th as proposed in the streetscape.
So it's to approve item 5G with a modification from staff input. Is that what it is?
As Stuart pointed out, with the inclusion of the widening of Northeast 10th, apparently which is included in the streetscape.
Okay. All right, very good. So we have a motion to approve item 5G. We have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Witcher. Do we have any discussion on item 5G?
Hey, Tim, just a point of clarification, I didn't realize this until a little bit of discussion before. The Walnut Street then is coming out. So,
That's correct.
All right. And that access, there will no longer be the light that's at Walnut and 10th will just be the off-ramp for 235?
That is correct.
Okay. So no direct access from the GE site to that?
That's correct.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
sir?
With the streetscape, will it be necessary to have left turn lanes with this light?
Left turn lanes on arterial roads, especially something that's got a volume like that, like Northeast 10th Street has, to signalize an intersection like that and not make any provision for left turns has always become problematic down the road. So that's the reason why we had added that if approved, we'd recommend that the Commission approve. If you act to approve the traffic signal, you do so with including some widening on 10th Street for it. Basically, it would be a turn lane that would mostly serve Stiles Avenue, but since you've got widening on both sides, it would provide an improved level of service for access to the School of Math and Science.
But it would specifically have left turn lanes?
Yes.
Okay. And that is covered in the cost at the...
I believe that the plans as contemplated currently, we're looking at adding like a turn lane on Stiles Avenue, wasn't
Yes.
it? Yeah.
So it's fully funded, including the left-hand turn lanes?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm not sure that I want to make clear what I think I'm hearing. Staff recommendation is adding left-hand turn lanes from 10th Street
to Stiles.
To Stiles.
Correct.
You're saying what's funded is left-hand turn from Stiles onto 10th?
Well, the entire project would be funded.
Okay.
And we've made an application for an EDA grant to fund this. And so adding that additional left turns on 10th can be included in that.
Okay. And so if we vote to approve this contingent upon the left turn lanes, that grant would be modified to include?
That's correct.
Okay. And then this shouldn't have any bearing on our decision, but just out of curiosity, the Stiles itself is usually parallel parked on both sides, and it would be widened as part of this improvement?
There'll be a median installed and 2 wide single lanes, north and south. So it's a 20-foot single lanes for two-way traffic, basically. But single lane each way, and no parking on the street.
Right, because no parking, because you just wanted to be able to come up to the gate at entry and into the parking garage. Okay, I do have a question about the entrance of the math school right
Yes.
across there, and I don't know if it's you or for Mr. Chai, but is that going to be included in the signal, four-way signal kind of control there, or how does that
But
work?
the school driveway?
Right.
It would have to be. It
Right.
feeds directly into it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have drivers coming out from the school driveway wouldn't have any sort of instruction as to what to do when they arrived.
Okay, so it does include.
Yeah, it would have
It makes it four-way.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure that that's good. Ma'am, did you have something?
I was just wondering about the widening on 10th Street, because I go down that way a good bit, and there doesn't seem to be any extra space there. So are you going north and south to widen 10th Street?
It should be about 6 feet on both sides to widen that.
Okay. Any other discussion on item 5G? Okay, so we have a motion to approve item 5G from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Witcher, with the additional staff input about 10th Street. Am I correct? Okay, am I correct on your motion? Second? Okay. May I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Okay, we go on now to item 6, comments from citizens. Anybody wish to speak? Okay, item 7, reports and other items from the traffic commissioners, etc. Let's start on over with Commissioner Witcher.
Unfortunately, I don't have anything to report, and I'm not sure what our progress is with staff on the changes for Uber and stuff like that, but sorry, I don't have any report on that right now.
We'll make sure to get something from council here in a second. Okay? And for Commissioner Littlefield.
Nothing specific from Ward 2, but the Traffic Calming Subcommittee really didn't formally meet last month. We had a very brief, casual conversation. We're awaiting staff to answer some questions, and when we get the answers to those questions, we'll have a direction to shoot forward on. So we're making progress. Thank you.
Okay. Now to Commissioner White.
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay, thank you. Over to Commissioner Hale.
Nothing to report, sir.
And Commissioner Schuline.
Nothing here. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Jenkins. Commissioner George. Commissioner Yonkel. Okay. There's a few things I have. First thing is there was a news report last week about bikes and bike routes, and mainly about that new 2.5-mile boulevard that's going to follow the old I-40 roadway. And there was a concern from a citizen referencing boulevard traffic in the middle of town, bikes crossing, trying to go on. Just wanted to make sure everybody is aware. We do have a bike plan, a city bike plan, and the routes that we've approved go right off of that plan. So all I can say to citizens and to anybody else is, if you feel there's a need for a bike route to be able to move traffic around, bike traffic around, for future developments of roads and that kind of thing, you need to submit a recommendation to modify the bike plan to let us know that there's some need or some want for bikes at certain spots. And that's what we done. That's what we did several years ago. Is we recommended the approval of the bike plan, and from that plan we approved all the routes. They've all been signed, pretty much, if what I understand. They pretty much have all been signed, and we're about ready to start some sort of public awareness to remind everybody of bike routes and mixing of the traffic between vehicles and bikes, et cetera. So there was a story on that, and I think the only piece that was missing from that was the city has done a lot of work to make it bike friendly and to put bikes in with vehicle traffic. If there's a new need, just let somebody know, and we'll evaluate and we'll see where we have to go with that. So there was that. And then in the past, we've sometimes taken the month of July off. So I'd just like to mention to everybody that at the June meeting, we'll ask staff to let us know if there's anything coming down the pike that really needs us to meet for July, and maybe we'll take that month off because of trips, et cetera. So that's coming down. Okay, so that's all from the commissioners. Captain? I have nothing. Okay, council, if you could give an input on the, what are we calling them now? The what?
The TNC's ordinance. The ordinance right now is actually going through final revisions, and we're going through the final draft, and hopefully we'll have that in front of you very soon. We are hoping to get it in front of you before summer's out. So if we cancel July's meeting, hopefully we'll be able to get it to you before or just after that.
So it went out last week, I believe, to the
industry.
To the industry for their final inputs, pretty much, from all the workshops. Did they give a time limit when we wanted input back?
The deadline for receiving, for our office to receive, or for the city to receive input would be the 21st of this month, so on Wednesday, 2 more days.
Okay. So maybe we could even see something in June if there's not any major changes.
Possibly. That's what we would try and get it through to you as soon as possible.
Right.
And then if there are large revision or something, it may go into July or August.
Right, if we have to meet up again with the subcommittees, et cetera.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Is that clear? Good. Anything else? Okay. Mr. Chai?
Outside of our typical monthly report on the installation of administratively installed yield signs and parking restrictions, I have nothing else to add.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any other actions that need to be done. Any other comments? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Anybody who's not in favor can stay.